live Green Rush Business of Cannabis talk show. Hi, everybody. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and sometimes host here on the program. Joining me this afternoon and this evening is our good friend from New Jersey. He is our acting chief operating officer. His name is Doug Miller. Hello, Doug.
Hello, Jimmy. How are you today?
It was good to see you outside of Zoom.
Yes, that was a crazy event we had, and we'll go into that later. Let's talk to our
Absolutely. That was the
wonderful guest. We
Wednesday
have
night
somebody
live from the
important,
summit.
very important today. We have a very important guest to start
That's
the
right.
show with.
But I just wanted to ease in and let's bring in our very important, we always have a very important guest at 4:00. But in this particular case, it's an old friend who is a very big part of the history of Pro Cannabis Media. His name is Marc Shepard. He is the CEO, executive director. What the heck is your official title? President of NECANN, Marc?
I don't know. I'm just waiting to find out who this important guest is. So let's get on with it.
That would be you.
Oh,
and thank you for joining us. 1 week from today will be the end of the first day of the New England Cannabis Convention at the Hynes Auditorium in Boston. Marc, that's a week away. I am sure you are so ready. You can't wait.
Oh, absolutely, Jimmy. As you know, I mean, we'll start working on next year the day this one's over. So for me, this is the end of week 51 of working on this show. And yeah, very, very much ready for it to happen.
And you've got a great program ready to go for at least a great program planned for next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Hynes Auditorium in Boston. The New England Cannabis Convention, by reputation, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, outside of Vegas anyway, trade show convention and also consumer cannabis convention on the schedule on a regular basis. Marc, you've got a great featured speaker, a keynote, which is one of my all-time favorite actors, comedians, and producers, Jim Belushi.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody who we thought about for a few years about possibly coming to NECANN. He obviously has a lot of customers and clients in New England. The schedule just didn't work out for him. He has his own Discovery series called Growing Belushi, and they actually film each year in February and March, and we just haven't been able to do it. And this year it worked. So we're really excited to have him come out and talk about his farm and his sort of journey and becoming a big name, real cultivator. Not, I hate to even say celebrity brand, because he didn't just slap his name on a brand. He became a cultivator first and kind of earned his reputation, and then opened a brand after he learned what he was doing. So very excited to have him talk.
And that's not all, as they say in the TV world. That's not all. Marc Shepard, what else do you have on your docket for next weekend?
We've had a couple of surprise guests that they're not planned through us, but they're going to be in the booth. Montel Williams is going to be doing his podcast, Let's Be Blunt, from one of the booths on Saturday and Sunday. Calvin Johnson, Hall of Fame receiver from the Detroit Lions, is going to be there, I think, all 3 days. And we just found out today that Cypress Hill is going to be headlining a Saturday night after party, which is kind of cool. And other than that, we've had just a crazy run this year. We actually had to expand the hall. We got the booths up to about 300 booths. We sold out the first week of January. We have about 50 people on a waiting list. So we decided to expand the programming because we're expecting, a lot more people. So we're actually, for the first time, doing 5 full programming tracks running all 3 days, in addition to, I think, 5 separate ticket workshops. So it's the most programming and most exhibitors we've ever had at any show.
You are a glutton for punishment, aren't you, Marc Shepard?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Hey, and if you don't have enough room, you just expand. I think that's a great thing. Talk to me a little bit about that, what you were just explaining to the people about the programming platforms as opposed to the breakout rooms, because there is a difference, right?
Yeah, so we have, we've got several different ticket options. If people just want to come and look at the exhibitors, they can just buy an exhibit floor ticket and walk the floor. But we have an all access pass for 3 days that gets you access to all of the speakers, which is 5 programming tracks a day. They're consumer trends, cultivation, business and operations, sales and marketing, technology and innovation. And then the third option on top of that, you could also pay a separate fee to go to one of the workshops. We've got exit to your cannabis business, restructuring a cannabis business. We've got responsible vendor training certification course, and then a practical guide to say wellness and yoga and meditation and cannabis combined. So you really kind of have, there's really something for everyone from a speaker standpoint. No matter what you're looking to get into, there's probably a programming track or workshop that works for you.
And it's a 3-day event. You can get a 3-day ticket. I know that. But the other thing I know that you like about this is truly a mix between the actual trade show, the trade, and consumers can come in and enjoy and see what all the hubbub, if you will, is all about with cannabis, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we feel like that's sort of high level, like just, 100% high level business that's already covered, like you said, in the show in Vegas. So for us, we feel like this is from a 101 all the way up to the advanced level. You are going to see people, negotiating the purchase of a $50,000 extraction machine on the floor. But you also, if you're a beginning person just learning about medical marijuana, you can go and talk to one of 15 or 20, MMJ licensed outlets about different products and how to get medicine for yourself. So since it's focused on the local market, and you've got new people coming online in Rhode Island and Connecticut, Vermont's still in its infancy, and then you have Massachusetts and Maine. So if you're bringing the whole community together, you've got to have content for everything, and since pretty much everybody there is a consumer, even if you're a professional, it's nice to be able to see the products as well.
Okay. Doug, I'm sure you got a couple of questions from Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, how many speakers about do you have with that many tracks in 3 days worth?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you add in the fact that some of them, they're panels that might have 4 or 5 people, it's just over, it's give or take about 120 different speakers. And, we vet applications for 9 months before the show. We typically get between 600 or 700 applications. And so we're able to curate, we feel like probably one of the best programming schedules in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. 120 speakers you'll learn a lot of knowledge right there.
Yeah.
That's,
you'll also have a lot of fun at this show. I think that's one of the things that I like about all the NECANN conventions, whether they be in New England or now you've branched out to New York and to New Jersey. How big an opportunity is that for NECANN when you see all the new states in what is basically driving distance from your home base just outside of Boston?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Northeast is so unique as compared to the rest of the country. As states come online in the West or even the Midwest, it's great, but yeah, it's not like the Northeast where literally you can touch 8 states in 3 hours, just by driving around. So the fact that there's all those, and every one of them has a different program with different rules, so you really do need a show in each market dedicated to the rules and opportunities in that. So it's really kind of fun to start in the Northeast.
What number show is this for you up here in Boston?
It's our 9th year, but our 8th show because we lost 2020. And that picture behind me is that's our first show at the Castle in Boston in 2015. It's a good reminder of me of how things began and what the market was like and what the community was like. Pre-rec. That was 6 months before rec was legalized in Boston.
Great. Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about the NECANN Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. Very excited to be doing our 4th year of the Cup. We pretty much make it open to anyone. It's obviously a lot easier to enter if you're in Massachusetts. There's certain legalities of transporting products across the border. But we do an open competition. This year we have separate categories for home growers and for licensed facilities, because we didn't want to just have one licensed facility win best flower and not be able to recognize the best home grower. So we split it this year in hopes that we'd get enough entries to validate that. And we got close to 500 entries to the event. And on Saturday on the floor at 4:00, we're going to be announcing the winners of the Cup, which we're very excited about.
And you also have those community awards too, Mark, that a lot of people really enjoy. And I like the different categories that you've been in. It's certainly a wide variety of categories.
Yeah, we've had to obviously expand as the programs have expanded. Like for the first time, we're doing recreational dispensaries in some of the newer states where it wasn't a category before. It gets people kind of excited, animated. Sometimes it starts feuds and whatnot. But the whole idea of doing those awards is really just to kind of get some names out there and bring everybody together so that we can everybody can see that they're not out there by themselves, as they're trying to get work done in the industry. It's like, oh, wow, look at this room. It's filled with people who they share ideals and passions with me, and let some of those people up on a stage, put a spotlight on them and get some appreciation.
Hey, I know MJ Biz did this the last couple of years. They've kind of categorized their booths, and it's gotten some, not completely great feedback. Are you doing anything like that? Do you put like all your growing area in one area, the lighting in one area, the ancillary companies over here, the plant touching? Are you doing anything like that? How do you make up where everybody goes?
No, I mean, everybody can do what they want. I'm sure Emerald Media doesn't care what I think. I think that's probably one of the most horrible ideas I've ever seen. I get the idea of why it makes it maybe easier to navigate a gigantic floor if you're an attendee, but I just look at it this way. If I'm a lighting company and I'm in a row and I'm the 9th booth in the row and the 8 booths before me are lighting companies, pardon my language, what the hell, why am I here? How many people are going to make it to the 9th booth in the row to hear my pitch? No, zero. And then just, like we have a booth at MJ Biz. So obviously, as I'm sitting here telling them they're terrible, I like that show enough. I actually buy a booth there. But I'm just in services. But my company, who I do conventions, I actually can help almost any business in there. But if somebody doesn't feel like I'm interested in seeing new services, they're not even going to come to my section. So I found that it wasn't surprising to me that they did that the first year that MJ Biz relinquished control to the new ownership. MJ Biz, when they owned it, never did that. We do a tiny bit, like a lighting company buys a booth, there's an empty booth next to them, and then a lighting company in California that doesn't know who that company is best, they buy the one right next to it. I'm going to move them. I actually don't want them next to each other because what's the point?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Doug, you got something for him?
Yeah, honestly, as a consumer and being a business owner, so I do the conventions often, and I love to walk around and meet all the different companies and see the products and keep myself in the loop. But yeah, I think it's a terrible idea that they did that, because as a consumer, it's more fun to go from a lighting company to a grow company to see seeds and then just constantly change it up. Because again, like you said, if you look at 7 lighting companies, they're generally the same lighting column. I mean, you can only have so many different types of lights, and you get each pitch, and by the 5th person, you're checking out of lights and you're going over somewhere else. And I just think you're losing the engagement of the consumer with the business tables that are there. And that's why they're there, is to pitch to people. I think you're right on when you said that. And I, as a consumer too, I think it's a terrible idea. It's more fun to engage with everybody just as an open place.
Yeah. Fun's a key word when you go to the New England Cannabis Conventions, because they've always kind of separated themselves. There's always seems to be more fun. And this year I've noticed, Mark, I don't know why, but I've been invited to a whole bunch of parties on Friday and Saturday night, perhaps the most I've ever been invited anywhere. That being said, are you starting to see more ancillary events in the after the conventions open that day than you have in the past?
Yeah, I mean, this year, they talked about the expansion in the number of exhibitors, whatever. I've seen a bit of an explosion on this event, and there's always been some ancillary events, but Jimmy, same as you, like you can get a pulse of it. Like, I've seen 2 or 3, it means there's probably 5 or 6. This year I've seen a dozen. And there's plenty. They don't reach me. Like the person, I'm not a customer, so why would they invite me? They know I can't come anyway because I'm going to be at the hall till 9. But I do think it's kind of a sign. It's something that I think that you kind of aspire to as an event, that people think, even if the event itself isn't perfect for us, we know everybody's there, so let's do an off-site one. And, I obviously look at the industry very tightly. I go to about 30 conventions a year, including R7. And, I've asked the question across LinkedIn and a couple of things. I'm pretty well convinced that it's the second biggest event in the country. Obviously, we're nowhere near MJ Biz, but, that's in Vegas and it's 9 months later. So I do think that, this show in Boston, the New England Cannabis Convention, still growing in its 8th year. I think we've reached a level now where people feel they have to be there, and you do use those after parties as a pulse. Like they couldn't get a booth, but they had to have an event.
That's right. I don't want to. I just want to go and have a party. I understand that mentality too. So on this show, when we look at the cannabis industry and the business of it, we hear a lot of doom and gloom. Marc, you probably have a better pulse of the industry than perhaps anybody, because you're literally direct selling to both ancillary and plant touching consumers and businesses in this space. Are you seeing any decline?
Well, what you're seeing is a profit decline, right? And so, and it's a funny thing, Jimmy, because I come from media, so I come from newsprint actually. So I'm sort of familiar. Maybe I'm like a little nervous. Boy, I enter an industry and it crashes. So I look at it, but it's different. Like in media, you looked at it, and for so long in newsprint, it was, you open a newspaper, it was 70% margins. Make $100, keep 70. It was fantastic. So as it started to phase out from the internet, the people just kind of shrugged their shoulders and were like, oh, now our margins are only 50%. Oh, now they're only 30%. Who cares? And they didn't care. In cannabis, it wasn't quite that big, but the people that are struggling, and where all the doom and gloom is going to come from, is the people whose investments are just based on those ridiculous margins. Like, this business is going to work as long as an ounce is $400. All right, well, you're going to go out of business. Ounces are going to be $90 soon. But if you really look at it, if you can't sell a plant at $90 an ounce and make a profit, you built a bad business. The tomatoes don't cost $90 an ounce, but they make profit. So there's plenty of room. The thing people get caught up in is they just look at growth. So you sit there and you say, wow, the cannabis industry didn't grow. And I'll make up a number like, it was 20 billion last year and it's only 21 billion this year. There's no growth. But I'm like, no, it grew tremendously, but the average cost of an ounce got cut in half. So where it was 400, now it's 200. I'm like, yes, how's the gross number of sales? It's actually going to go down, gross sales, while the industry grows. So all the new businesses that are opening in Massachusetts, these delivery businesses, the new dispensaries, the cultivators, they're all coming online. They're opening up. They've got new employees. They've got new businesses. They're putting money back in the thing, but they're just not making the margins that all these larger companies were touting 5 or 6 years ago. Does that mean it's a failure? No, it just means those unsustainable margins are going away. So people just have to adjust their expectations, and then they'll see that it's a success.
Yeah. Doug, you're in the business. I mean, the margins are very slim no matter where you are, because of all the compliance and regulations that are out there as well. Are you looking forward to this, Doug?
I mean, I always say, Jimmy, you have to be able to pivot. If you can't pivot in business, then just hang up your shoes, because you're just not going to make it. It's just one of them things where you have to be able to, and especially in this business, I've done a lot of different industries, and this industry is the craziest, again, because of the regulations, and the laws just don't follow business structure, and it's literally impossible. It's almost set up impossible for a business to succeed. You have to be very smart, and like you were saying, the investors, people with money that don't understand the actual cannabis industry, think that they know business, and that's fine. You can know all the business you want, but if you don't know the cannabis business, you're going to fail. And you can throw money at it all day you want, all you want every day, and it won't matter, because you'll just keep losing more money. And until you understand how the industry works and the fact that you need really good growers with knowledge to grow the best product that you can grow so that you can make the best medicinal products and cannabis products out there. And the larger MSOs and companies, they just want to grow large scale for profit, and then it ends up becoming a disaster. And I think we're seeing that right now.
Hey, Mark, if you had to pick between one of the 3 days, which do you think is going to be the biggest day? What's a can't miss day? And I think I know the answer to this, but go ahead, answer it.
Well, I mean, there isn't actually a simple answer because it's going to depend on who you are. You know, if you're in the industry and you're really looking to network for your career and do all that stuff, I'd recommend Friday, because if I'm in the industry, I'm not working for the weekend. If I'm only going for one day, I'll take my work day and I'll go Friday. Saturday traditionally is going to have the most people. So if you're looking for just that experience of like, wow, everybody's here, you know, you're going to see Saturday. And the programming goes the same way too. Very, very heavy business focused on Friday. Then it's going to branch out on Saturday. Sunday, you know, is a great day for people that maybe have any kind of anxiety. You know, if going shoulder to shoulder down aisles and standing crushed next to people, that you can't do that, you'll see a lighter crowd on Sunday. You know, I wish it was packed every single day, but there's enough people to justify Sunday, but you have breathing room, you know, and you're not going to feel as stressed and it's not going to be as frantic. So it really depends what you're looking for, which day is best for you.
Well, you know, the history of Pro Cannabis Media all began at the 2018 New England Cannabis Convention when I wandered into the Hynes Auditorium for the first time and my eyes went, whoa, I had no idea how big and expansive this industry really was. It was also the first day that I did my first ever podcast for In the Weeds. It was with a guy that I think all of us on this call know, Stu Zakem, who of course is the little brother to the late Lenny, who the bridge in Boston was named after. And Stu actually called me this week. I think we talked for about 45 minutes. I know that's not a shock for anybody who knows Stu and myself on the phone, because we both like to talk. But I so thank you for continuing, for surviving the pandemic, which I know was not an easy thing for anybody in the trade show business. And now you're on the other side, you've survived, and now you're back thriving again. And I congratulate you on that, because I know how hard you've worked at getting back to where you wanted to be without that darn virus that drove us all nuts. So
absolutely, and same to you, Jimmy. Yeah, like anybody that was in that kind of, you know, any kind of industry where you're interacting with people and talking to people, it was tough going. So, you know, for all of us out on the other side, you know, fantastic. And it's these shows kind of time to become a celebration, a survivalist celebration, which is great.
Absolutely. And the website, you can go and get tickets. Go ahead.
It's just NECANN.com, NECANN.com. Ticket prices actually go up tomorrow. So if you want to get online today before midnight, you'll get the discounted price. After tomorrow, you're going to pay.
I get you. That's the cost. That's business, man. That's right. How it works. Early bird has to get the worm. We found that out with our Wednesday night event. Hey, Marc Shepard from NECANN, thank you so much for joining us. I will see you next weekend, and I look forward to it like I always do. We're going to have more of Green Rush Live on a Friday afternoon after these very important messages from our very important sponsors. Don't go away. The Vermont Cannabis Report is supported by another Green Mountain business, Cannatrol, winner of High Times Best Dry Cure System. Check them out at cannatrols.com. It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds, and once in a while, the really live business cannabis talk show we call Green Rush on Friday afternoons from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. Now, let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore, so I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now, if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weegits filtration system. What? The Weegits.com, Weegits, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. Now, the guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. So here's how it works. You start with that glass bowl, you flame on, and then you inhale nice and smooth so the smoke goes through 3 different filtration and cooling systems. Now, if pre-rolls is your thing, you can use the Weegits filter that a pre-roll fits into perfectly. That's right, or even a chillum. The more filters, the smoother the draw. Best of all is the price. You can get all this, or one or the other, for just a few bucks. It'll cool your smoke and you'll give your lungs a break. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weegits.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind. All that resin and tar is collected in the polyurethane filters that are easy to clean with soap, water, and a few Q-tips. Your lungs will thank you, and so will I.
Which at first I thought, oh, I don't know if I'm an activist, but I have, held a bullhorn on the State House steps. I have frequently testified before the Cannabis Control Commission and the state legislature, and I'm not, shy about criticizing where I see, mistakes being made. So yeah, I think that's what differentiates me, just an appreciation for the plant. And then also I'm a cannabis entrepreneur myself. I've started businesses, so I've lived that entrepreneurial journey. I know how hard it is. It is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint. So I think that, I'm in the game, not just on the sidelines.
As a broker, we have access to many, many cannabis carriers. So I will go in with 2 or 3 quotes for people. The quotes might be $20,000 for one, $22,000 for another, $17,500 for another. Pretty close among the 3. What I tell people is it's not the pricing, it's what's included and not included, meaning exclusions. An exclusion in layman's terms is just something that's not included. It's not on the menu, so it's just not included. But if you don't know that, if no one shows you that on page 71 of a 150-page policy, you're not going to know. No one knows. I never met one person that says they read an insurance policy. If you do, I got some property in Florida for you.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
So the reality of the matter is, big banks and small banks are going to be different in a lot of ways. And they're both going to have their advantages and disadvantages. For a business like cannabis, you really have to have an integral knowledge of that business and a real granular knowledge of that business and the players involved in it. And that's why if you look at the banks that are successful to play in this space in Massachusetts, they are smaller banks that are very heavy, intensified personal touch, human communication, where you don't get a lot of that with the bigger banks.